and a number of other people, including Terry. And we made sure that the rules said that an amendment to a bill had to be germane to the original purpose of that bill.
Amen.
You couldn't get a one-page bill that dealt with school buses and add on to it a 400-page transportation bill just because it mentioned the word bus. I would submit to you that some of that common sense approach to legislation is something that we need desperately in Washington. And I have been talking to people and businesses and interested concerns all over the 9th District of Virginia for the last few months, but yesterday I had the opportunity to talk to the folks at the Farm Credit, and they just gave me a sheet. They weren't trying to advocate, they were just educating. They weren't trying to advocate one position or another, but they gave me a sheet that just was staggering in its implication for how Washington is currently doing. And here's what it said. When we had banking problems in the Great Depression, they passed the Glass-Steagall Act. In 1933, it was 37 pages long. In 1999, when they felt like we needed an update, that the rules had changed a lot and things had changed over the years, we had the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, 145 pages. And then they thought we ought to do a little bit better accounting, and some of you may recall just a few years ago, Sarbanes-Oxley coming into play, 61 pages. And according to the sheet that the Farm Credit folks gave us, just this summer, they felt like we needed some new laws about our financial institutions, and so they passed the Dodd-Frank bill. 23,019 pages. If that doesn't say to you that the government in Washington is out of control and run amok, I don't know what else does. 23 pages is too many pages. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to make a major change in Washington, and you can help do that. You can help do that. We don't need folks who go along with the Obama agenda. We don't need somebody who votes with Nancy Pelosi 96.4% of the time, like Rick Voucher does. Now, you know, this last week, Voucher got a little upset about that because some group is running an ad, and I don't know anything about the group, but the group is running an ad that actually recites that number. And we have recited it on the campaign trail, and we believe it to be fairly accurate. And it comes from opencongress.com or .org and from the Washington Post blog site. That's where that number comes from. It's not something that we made up or some right-wing conspiracy group made up. But they got upset about it, and they started talking about how it wasn't right. And the Roanoke Times, a newspaper which generally never supported me and generally I think leans a little bit to the left, decided they would go and check on it on their own, and they came back and said, oh, no, 96.4 is really not being fair to Mr. Voucher. It's really only 91%. I'll tell you my position on it, folks. I don't think the people of Southwest Virginia want somebody that votes with Nancy Pelosi, whether it's 96.4 or 91%. They don't want somebody doing that. And so I will tell you, we could talk for hours. There are hundreds of issues out there. We have cap and trade. We have the unionization of all public safety employees that Mr. Voucher voted in favor of, which could be all kinds of mischief in there. We've got the 23,000-page financial reform bill. There are thousands of things that we can talk about. Healthcare reform, where I have said repeatedly that I would repeal the current healthcare reform bill. I don't believe it's constitutional. Then there's guns, where my opponent is, he's got a good record on voting for guns, but he votes for Nancy Pelosi. I pledge to you, even if it's a Republican speaker, if he does not support our constitutionally given gun rights, I will not support that speaker. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are poised at a time when we are in the position to take back Washington, bring back some common sense values. There's no question the Republicans didn't do everything right. That's why they got fired. But instead of learning from those mistakes that the Republicans were spending too much money who had control in the early part of the 2000s, instead of learning from that lesson when the Democrats took control, they made the Republicans look like pikers when it came to spending. And what we have to do now is we have to go to Washington. We have to elect not just Morgan Griffith over Rick Boucher, but we have to help make sure that we change the Congress and that we get a whole lot of new people there. And I appreciate very, very much each and every one of you who can support me, supporting me. Each and every one of you, please tell your neighbors and friends that it's important that we get out to the polls and vote. And each and every one of you that can, whatever you can do to assist in changing Washington by helping our campaign would be greatly appreciated. But I want to tell you something. When you finish working on November 2nd and you've worked hard and the polls have closed at 7 o'clock, I want you to go home and watch TV and know that you had a piece of history that's probably more significant than just this election in the 9th District. Because the 9th District of Virginia is one of the most important districts in the nation this year. Let me tell you why. Virginia polls close at 7 o'clock. That means we're one of the first states to close. When those polls close and the results start coming in, we have 4 races in Virginia that are competitive. The other 3 seats that are competitive 2 years ago were held by Republicans. Tom Davis retired and 2 Republicans were defeated. And Democrats took those seats. So when the pundits get an opportunity, when the liberal media gets a hold of the fact that we beat Tom Perriello, they're going to say, well, that was a close contest 2 years ago. It's not a huge rejection of the Obama-Pelosi agenda. But when they get to the 9th District of Virginia, and there's a check next to a name other than Boucher, when it says Griffith, the word that's going to be sent out is a 28-year incumbent who was a close friend of Barack Obama's and a trusted ally of Nancy Pelosi's was defeated. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a change afoot in this country, and there's going to be a bad night for the Democrat establishment in Washington. Thank you. And each one of you can share in this knowledge that you will have helped start a wave, because the polls in the states west of the Mississippi will not have closed yet. And when they see that this close personal friend of President Obama's and ally of Nancy Pelosi's 28 years has been defeated, the folks who feel like us but have forgotten that today is election day, or have for whatever reason not voted, when they see that pop up on the TV screen, they will say, oh my gosh, it's time for us to be a part of the change. Let's go vote. And in all fairness, for those who voted for Obama but have mixed feelings, they're probably more liberal than I am, but they have mixed feelings. They'll say, well, it's inevitable and it's probably a good thing to have Congress in different hands, so that you've got somebody watching Congress and somebody watching the president. Because the American people like to have a split system. That happens a lot. They like that check and balance, so they stay home. I estimate 5 to 10 seats in the West in the House will be affected by what you do in these last 39 days and what you do on Election Day, because they will realize that the wave is coming and they can be a part of it. And so what you all do is not only going to make a difference in the 9th District of Virginia, but it will make a difference for the United States of America. And for your work on behalf of the United States of America, I thank you. God bless each and every one of you. God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia, and God bless these United States of America. Thank you very much for letting me be here today.
When the Lord spoke to me to start the Tea Party, I wanted to meet Mr. Griffith. And I came and met him, and my spirit agreed with him. And he told me he felt it was divine providence that he run this year. I believe God has raised him up to replace Rick Boucher.
We'll have to see what God's will is. I do feel that it was His will for me to run, and of course I hope we win, but we'll have to see. I would ask that each of you pray for the safety of all the campaigns, mine, Vouchers, and Mr. Heaton's, because we all need that divine guidance looking over us while we go through this campaign. A lot of miles are driven, a lot of miles are flown, and so if you would pray for all the safety of all the campaigns, I would greatly appreciate it.
Ray Wells is chaplain of VFW, and he's got some good news.
Well, howdy. All these speeches have been made, I can't beat that, but I tell you, we're at war today, and we are at war. That's the reason my uniform, but it's still kind of war. Come November 2nd, there'll be an MIA in the 9th District. Missing in action. Mr. Boucher's going to be missing in action. Anyway, I'm the treasurer, and I've been called a lot of things here recently in the newspaper. A lot of names called, but that's okay. No, don't bother me. Don't bother me one bit. I'm an old Korean War veteran, and I tell you what, I'm proud of that. And I can stand the battle. Nobody can make it too hot for me, because you see, I got a mouth. I can talk back as good as anyone. But anyway, what I'm here today for is to explain to you. As I said, I'm the finance officer, the treasurer of this organization, and things cost me. And I just want to call something to your attention. 3 weeks ago, I put up a 4x8 sign of Mr. Griffith down Big Stone Gap, and I took off and went to Myrtle Beach on vacation, and I spent all my money, and I was going to give it to Mr. Griffith. No, I'm just kidding. Well, when I got back, I noticed that sign was missing. And the sign was a 4x8, and I put it up real strong and nice. I know the wind couldn't blow it down, and I put it up on the church's property. And it went missing. So I called Brother Kenneth. Brother Kenneth called State Department. He did, and they said, "Oh, I'll get back to you." Well, that didn't satisfy me. Yesterday, I went down to East Stone Gap. I found 9 of these small signs of Mr. Griffith, and a 4x8 sign, and I had 2 on my truck. One of them I was carrying to Mike Griffith down in the valley. But anyway, when I got to the State Department, they carried me out there, and I said, he said, "This is all of our political signs." And I picked up one big 4x8, don't know where it came from, but the one they took off the church property, I still haven't found it yet. Oh, I'll find it. I guarantee I'll find it. But I also picked up 9 of these. And to be just a little bit arrogant, I'm Diane. My friend Diane, went to wave at you, was up here. But anyway, I said, I want to be a little bit arrogant, and I said, well, I'm going to pick up Mr. Griffin's signs, but I'd like to see Mr. Boucher's signs. The guy looked around and he said, "Oh," I said, "the original Mr. Boucher signs." Where's Mr. Boucher's sign? You know, it was 9 of our small signs and 1 of the big ones. Well, that sort of aimed me a little bit, so I took the 4x8 sign up to Mike Griffith's house, dropped it off, gave him 3 of these. Actually, I gave him 2. Today, right now, there's one down on Highway 58 coming out of Pennington Gap, right on the 4-lane highway. On the 4-lane, you can see it in his mother-in-law's front yard. There's another one up on the north end of Powell Valley, right on the main highway. There is another one running into Big Stone Gap as you turn right.